our paths have crossed a few times, and all the way back from Woodford. And I think it was in the middle of like the heavy restrictions. We ran past each other, didn't we?
Yeah, I reckon I saw you when we were running, but you had a lot more hair.
Oh, yes, good memory.
Yeah, down near Hampton. I did recognise that. It was like we're both moving at the same pace.
I love that. It's like a mutual kind of, yep.
Yeah, right? That's it.
And then we go back into, the Woodford days where, we didn't really know each other that well, particularly because it wasn't too long before I think you moved on to your next opportunity. But I want to kind of use that as a marker. Like, when you think back, and I asked this to the other guys I just talked to yesterday on the podcast, it's been like 5-6 years, I think maybe even more for you that you've been in this game, right? And that's uncommon, I think. Like, nowadays, the retention rate of coaches and trainers isn't that high. And I wonder, how have you been able to get to this point? What do you think you've done that separated you from the coaches and trainers who haven't made it, who have lost that fire, or who just don't want to do it anymore, or can't make it a viable lifestyle and living for themselves? How did you get here?
Cool question. I guess I'll start from the very, very beginning, early days. So my background is probably a little bit different to most people, whereas I was actually an electrician when I finished school. So I went and did a 4-year apprenticeship, electrical apprenticeship, worked for about 12 months, and then discovered it wasn't for me. Thought I had an idea that I knew I always had a passion for teaching. It's to some description. So I was actually going to do a teaching degree. That was my initial plan. Once I quit, I went away for a little bit and then thought I was going to do teaching. Lived in Thailand for a few months, taught over there, loved it. And then when I came back, was going to start my degree. At the same time, I was really heavily into my footy, which I still am. So I always loved the game. And then I was training with Woody at the time. And then it was just one of those kind of light bulb moments where I was in one of my sessions and I was training, and, I was like, I love teaching, but I don't want to teach English, all these topics. I was like, I love coaching, and that my passion was in mainly with athlete development, and that's sort of where I've moved, or progressing into a little bit, pigeonholing myself a bit more now. But so then I started my degree, and that was the best thing for me too, because it just I guess when you realize where your passion lies for something. When for me, I barely even read a book up until the age of about 24. And like I said, in high school, it just wasn't for me. Education was not my thing. And then, it starts to reiterate the pattern when I'm reading all these articles and, I'm starting to write things, which is something I'd never actually done before. And then realize that I'd actually really had a love for something. And then, again, just it was things that I could always translate to myself. And then it's like I still play footy now. So the science behind sort of the philosophies is how I could improve as an athlete, or when I actually started becoming a coach, how I could improve my players and see them improve their performance. I started getting a real kick out of it, and and that's even to now, like that's where I get my biggest enjoyment. And I sometimes think, I'm like, well, it's sort of strange, like that. I get more enjoyment out of almost helping other people, and now like the kids that are coming and train in the NAB kids, like for me, them get improving their performance and seeing results, make it into the AFL is more of an achievement for me than something I feel like that I get from myself. So I think it's something that is just a passion will drive you anyway. And I think it's sometimes, I guess what I'm trying to say is a lot of people will jump into it early, and they think probably they finish school and, maybe coaches go out and they try different things, and then eventually it's, they kind of realize it's not for them. And that was like what was with me with the trade world. Like I knew I wanted to do something hands-on. You know, I love sort of constructing things. And that's kind of when it, you know, it took me 5 years, well, longer. You know, I was 24, so it took me 6 years out of school to realize that it wasn't for me. And then, luckily for me, I took the plunge and I quit my job and went somewhere else. But I think it just takes time, and naturally, people got to realize, you know, sometimes it's not for everyone. But if you've got a passion for something, you'll have a drive for it. You know, it's not something you got to work to. It's just there.
So, how do you think? Is it the passion? Like, is that it? Is it just the passion alone that's kept you going for all these years to become even now, you know, the co-owner of what looks like a pretty successful, effective gym, or are there other characteristics and other qualities and values that you think have separated you to keep you in this industry for this long?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess, again, I'll go back to the trade thing, like doing long hours, getting up early, going through an apprenticeship where for the first probably couple of years of my life, a couple of years of my apprenticeship, crawling through roofs and just doing real shitty jobs, you know, and hating it. You kind of realize when you get out and you start doing things that you love, that the things that are hard aren't really that hard. You know, and then even now, like a lot of the backlog that I'll have to do and admin stuff that I absolutely dread, I've kind of got that in the back of my mind now that I'm like, shit, it's nowhere near as bad as digging a hole for 8 hours. And I've been there before. I've done my time, you know. So I guess it's that, you know, that developing that work ethic. And like I said, when you have the drive, like that's what you want. And I guess for myself and Joss as my business partner, like, you know, and that's probably the other thing that works really well for me is I'm in business with someone that I'm really good friends with, and we share the same passion. Our drive is for us to become or to be the best facility that there is, and that's what keeps driving us, you know. And it's easy to have when I've got him there, you know, we bounce off each other and keep each other driven the whole time. But yeah, I think that's it. Just having that end goal of making sure that, you know, you're striving past mediocrity. It's not just we don't want to be a place that just go through the motions. Like my athletes, when they come in here, I want them to be the best in the business. I want them to go into the system and play straight away. You know, everyone that comes into our building, we've got the mantra that, particularly with our strength and conditioning classes, that no one ever gets injured. You know, that they're in there to actually better people, and that's what we put the time in to make sure that always happens. I think that's really important.
You said one of the goals for you guys is to have the best facility. What is the best facility not only look like but behave like for you?
Well, I mean, for us, we've set up you know, some values that we work towards. So for us, we kind of utilize those values and work off them to kind of give us a background of, or give us a base of what we want to work through. Like I said, for me, I'm mainly working within the athlete development now, so it's maybe not even making sure that we have the best athletes, but at least providing kids when they come in with an opportunity to become the best athlete. You know, and at least educate them enough to have that opportunity. Like I said, it's you know, it's not about people coming here and seeing results immediately from us, but it's about understanding what we're about as a brand, what our culture is like, enjoying their training, and then again empowering them, giving them the opportunity to change their lives and create their goals or get to where they want to be.
Okay. Now, how do you when you guys, you know, working with your clients, working with your athletes, do you have a system? Like, what is the system? You go from like point A, because I think a lot of coaches, they want to own a gym. A lot of trainers, you know, they don't have systems in place from point A to, you know, point Z, where their athlete's now playing pro sport or their client you've solved their problem. How do you think about that process from point A to point Z? And, you know, how has that changed over the years?
Yeah, so I mean, I think like adaptation and auto regulation are two really big things.
Yeah.
That as a coach, I believe you've just got to be ready for. Like, and I'll use my athletes as an example. So, footy season, whatever it might end at October, I've got someone in. They say to me, "Rightio, I want to get faster. I want to be more powerful and be ready for next season, which is at end of March, April." So, I'll sit down with them. We'll sort of go over maybe where they're at currently in terms of what they might be looking at with certain numbers for testing of different things. Some people come through a blank canvas, or they're coming with previous injuries. So not necessarily a timeline, but for me, it's just to actually get them into an injury-free position and then improve their performance. But, I might say, well, we'll block out what an ideal 6 months might look like in terms of, we might have a certain block would be hypertrophy, and then all things going well, we can go a little bit more into strength and power, and obviously depending on the specific area that they need to work on, then we can start to isolate things or focus on different things within their program while still maintaining the foundations that we've created. But as we all know, there's just so much that happens in people's lives that it never works out that way, and it's never perfect. You got kids that are going through year 12 constantly, so we're battling, got guys and girls that are studying all the time. They're out playing different sports. So it's not like where you've got someone that might just be an AFL player, like the kids are playing cricket, they might have school athletics that factor in. They're going out and socializing. So it's, or they go away on holidays. So what you might have, I think it's important to, obviously have an ideal structure of what, if everything goes perfect, this is how we get from A to Z, and we're prepared for the season, prepared for a testing date, say, to look at numbers. But, like I said, the most important thing is that you got to be ready to tackle the hurdles. Sometimes you got to go backwards. You got to adjust. You got to adapt to the person.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's what you learn as a coach very quick. Or is it like there is so much chaos that can go on in someone's lives, and I heard when you prescribe a program, it almost always you are changing something.
Yeah. Even in the session.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah. Like on the day, like we're gonna do this. Yeah. It's like, oh, you didn't sleep that well last night, and you're stressed, and maybe I'm not gonna do as much volume, so we drop it back a little bit. There's so many examples of that. But I heard you mention testing. Did you guys have a testing protocol for your athletes and clients?
Testing is in like
performance testing.
So we'll generally set up testing days with our guys closer to when they'll go into their NAB testing.
Yeah.
So in an ideal world, like obviously last year was a little bit all over the joint with where everyone was at with COVID and stuff. But generally what I'll try and do is with my athletes, we'll get them in at the end of the season, and I'll try and get them all in. So at least we've got some sort of reference to work off. And when I talk about testing, I'm talking about what they would actually be tested for in their NAB testing. So, that's their 20-meter, their 2K, vertical jumps. We don't necessarily look at actual strength as numbers. We track all our data through Team Builder. So we've always got an idea and numbers to work off in terms of what we can use for a reference. But again, I find it's, we've got rough numbers. So I'll say to my guys, look, in an ideal world, we might be looking for, a back squat, trap bar deadlift of, up to 1.5, 1.7 times your body weight. But for me, I've kind of turned away, shied away from that a little bit now. And I just sort of consider that, again, depending on the factors of what guys need to actually work on, even having big numbers through these, through the bigger lifts really means jack shit if they can't move laterally, if they can't balance on one leg, if they haven't got the mobility to get down. So again, my philosophy is now on performance, solely performance. So the numbers are fantastic. You know, we're putting up numbers in the gym. It's great. But the key thing for me is that I get my guys moving well, and the key thing is that they're playing well. So again, they're playing well. It doesn't matter if they're lifting 1 times their body weight, but as long as they're on the park and they're doing the right thing, that's what I'm looking at. In terms of with our actual members, you know, it's a similar thing. Like we look at individualizing it completely. So, you know, we've got you know, are you a tradie? Are you a desk job worker? Our job for you is to be able to function in your life pain free. You know, and that's the number one priority. Whether your goal is to lose fat, put on muscle, whatever it is, everyone's going to be happier if they're not in pain, and they're going to function better.
Absolutely. And okay, so I know you guys got your Gen Pop clients and you have your athletes. You guys are a hybrid type of facility. And then you mentioned a couple key things about like athlete development. Instead of your priorities being like big bilateral max effort lifts, right, of relative strength, you said a couple things that I think people might have missed. Balance on one leg, so unilateral training, and change direction or laterally move and react to a stimulus. Do you think, there's a couple ways to go, but when you work with an athlete, are those some of your bigger priorities, or what are like the big keystone priorities for you to prepare them?
So I look at a really holistic approach, and again, I'm massive on being really slow in terms of a progressive overload. So for me, I look at my guys, and again, it's my job as a coach is to make sure that when they go out into the field, that they're able to produce or able to play to the best of their ability. Yeah. It's not what's done in here. So movement is number one for me. So again, they need to have optimal range of motion. I need them to be able to get down to the floor, to change direction, but still be able to actually create stiffness and gain stability in those positions. And again, it will just change from person to person. So, I mean, look at it again. I'll kind of work in different blocks. When I get guys coming in first, it's about understanding proper recruitment patterns, particularly, you know, through the glute areas, understanding hip extension, external rotation, abduction, making sure that we're aware of the key muscles that actually control those movements, or the key ones that I want them to be able to utilize, that I believe that's worked really well for me as a coach, that will make them better athletes. And then once we've developed that sort of, I guess, foundation of stability, foundation of strength, then I'll start to move towards actually going a bit faster. So we'll start to do movements quicker. And then the last thing for me is load. You know, and I always say that it's a bonus. You know, if we can move right and get the muscle recruitment better, when they're out on the field, they're only fighting gravity. That's it realistically when they're moving. So that's number one. As long as we can get those patterns right, that's what we're after. Then number two, if we do it quickly, you know, that's what we want as our next priority. Number three, you know, is that we start getting the load in, but we've got to have number one and two in place first before we start worrying about the load. So to answer again, the next phase then from movement is actually transferring basic movement patterns and understanding the muscle recruitment patterns into more advanced movements. So that's when I'll start looking at acceleration, deceleration patterns, how my guys change the direction. I do a lot of actual defensive lateral drills. And then, you know, then I'll start gradually bits and pieces start to integrate into variations of Olympic lifting and some heavier stuff. But yeah, always moving first.
When you have a client or I don't know, I'm sure you've had them, like the clients are athletes that, you know, they want to just lift heavy. They just want to lift heavy like quick, right? And they want to get to that place faster. How do you communicate to them? I don't know. I know you kind of just maybe you say exactly what you just said to me, but how do you communicate to them on their level, like, hold on, we need to earn load, earn the right to lift load, and how do you get on their level and be like, this is a patient, like, seriously, multi-year process?
It's funny. So I mean, obviously, again, I just try to educate my guys as much as I can. So even everything that I'm saying on here is probably just a carbon copy of what I almost repeat to my athletes continuously. When people come in, I try to explain it to them that it's your performance is the number one most important thing. The weight on the bar is not going to make you a better athlete. You know, it's a holistic approach to everything, and I guess it's it's almost finding ways, and it's an unfortunate thing, but you know, the mentality of a general population is a lot of revolved again around soreness. You know, so and having to work really hard, you know, and going, oh, if I don't feel like I worked out this, you know, come out of the session and I can't walk tomorrow, it's you know, it's not going to be better for my performance because I haven't really worked hard, and that's unfortunately that's just the mentality that a lot of guys have. So I'll try to find ways that, you know, and I'll say to them, I'll say, look, if you trust me, if in this way you're coming here, you're gonna utilize my philosophies because you know that it's worked with the previous guys that I've had in here. You're going to trust me, and then if it doesn't work, if your performance hasn't improved after 4 weeks, then come back to me. You can tell me that something's wrong, and very rarely that happens. If you stay true to your philosophies and you utilize good methods that you know work, it's always going to work for you. And then, you know, even at the start of the sessions, like I said, the three main ones for me now over everything again is getting glute max, glute medius, glute minimus in extension, external rotation, and abduction. And generally, the 99% of our population don't actually understand how to recruit those muscles properly, or and utilize those movements efficiently. So what you find is, like, I'll get guys in, and again, I know that you know that they're going to do 10 bridges. A double leg bridge, for example, really basic movement pattern. Someone that doesn't really understand how to increase their muscle recruitment will probably just go from their back, push their hips up 10 times, and then they'll be like, I can't really feel anything. You know, it's not really that. You know, there's no burn, there's nothing there. So what I'll get to do is, rather than putting on load, I'll stuff around with their tempos a little bit. You know, and then I'll kind of it's a little bit psychological. You know, I'll get in their brain. They'll be like, oh, but you know, I could usually hip thrust 60 kilos. I'm like, okay, no worries. Let's do this. Rather than you do your hip thrust for 60 kilos, I'm going to get you doing a hip thrust with body weight. I'm just going to put a band just below your knee. We're going to do that for 10 reps. You hold it 3 seconds at the top, pushing your knees out against the band. And on the 10th rep, I'll push down against your hips, and I want you to try and stay there for 10. And then every single time they'll sit down and go, holy shit, my ass is absolutely on fire. That's killing, you know. And then I'll say, well, there you go. You don't need 60 kilos on the bar because for one, and 9 times out of 10, again, they move like shit anyway when they come in. So you go, you're not really moving that well. So there's, you know, we just kind of drop the ego a little bit. And you didn't need weight. I just pushed against your hips there, and you got a band around your knee, and you're burning 10 times as much through your glute as what you did when you had the weight on. You know, and then that's it. You just slowly start to change your mindset. And then, like I said, yeah, that's it. And then in a couple of weeks, they start to go, holy, you know, I go, well, you've been doing your glute stuff. Yeah, you've been doing your activation before training. How's your running feeling? And again, you know, it works. They come in and go, it's amazing. I'm feeling great. I'm moving around. You know, I'm finally using my ass. I'm quicker already. Everything's going good. And then then they trust the system. And I mean, that's just what's worked for me.
You mentioned, so you got the glute bridge. I think a lot of coaches, they have these kind of like big key indicator movements that they really are quite effective for them to teach and to coach and to get results. You mentioned the glute bridge one. For the joint actions you were talking about, external rotation, abduction, and hip extension, obviously those are very key. What other movements are your kind of go-tos that are like very universal, big bang for buck, that you like applying for those joint actions?
Yeah, cool. So I know I've got to make sure I give this guy the credit here because I can't take any of this. So I used to do the double leg bridge, well, realistically for all three with the band.
Yep.
Then I used to just do a normal clam. So with resistance, I've now changed that to what's called a lock clam. So when recently did attended a seminar by Dr. Andrew Locke. Sure if you heard of him before, but it was really, really fascinating. Did a glute workshop with him, and his philosophies around the glutes and the hips and back pain in particular were really, really fascinating. And he developed this movement pattern or a movement that's it's similar to a clam, but your bottom leg is straight, and the top leg is only flexed ever so slightly. So basically, your foot is just hooked over, just around the shin area, and then he faces the body closer towards the floor. So really, what a try does is to really isolate the glute med, the anterior and posterior parts. So you use no hip flexor, whereas in a normal clam, when we've got the knees bent and using the band, we're locked in hip flexion. So there still is some form of contraction there as we're flexed at the hip. And it isolates a lot more. I've been using that exercise, which has been a massive game changer for our guys here, absolutely huge. And then I've been using a similar abduction exercise, which well, I'm not going to say we stole because he gave it to us to use, but basically, again, it's about really trying to ensure that you can isolate the glute without getting any hip flex or recruitment through the back. So, like a normal abduction to start with, would just be on your side again with the legs straight, squeezing the glute, and then just slowly lifting the heel up and down, and just ensuring that there's no hip movement. And then for some people, and it's like I've been training, now for consistently for 12 years. And I found that doing that abduction movement, I'd still get a lot through my hip. So I moved to a prone abduction where I just moved like set. So I laid flat on my face. No, just on the floor.
Yep.
Just put my hands underneath my pelvis, squeeze my ass so my pelvis was locked into my hands.
Yep.
And then I just abducted the heel.
So simple.
And then, pushed it away. And, I work up now to upwards of around 30 reps. So just to increase the rep range a little bit. And they're the two, so they're three, basic three. And that's, he calls it, he's got a big 5. So he adds in another couple exercises into his routine that he almost gives everyone gen pop. But I use those 3, and then we do a bit more TVA stuff, so a little bit more breathing, and a little bit more through the shoulders as well. But in terms of those 3 movement patterns, really, really basic. And then, the philosophy again, which I've adapted from Andrew, is again, you don't progress until there's real isolation or until that's predominantly the muscle that's working. So, particularly with the abduction, a lot of people won't be able to even do a side plank without, recruiting a little bit too much through the QL, or not being able to actually feel their glute locking up to stabilize themselves, so resisting the hips going towards the ground. So, we basically just keep working up on those progressions.
That's really practical. That's great. Thank you, Cory. But I want to shift. You've been a business owner for Pulsate for I don't know, how many years?
So we've been established for 4, and then when I came across, I was just a sole trader. So I was just an S&C coach for about my first 4 months, until the boys were kind enough to let me buy in, and then the rest is history. Yeah.
When you look back, you all look back over those years, I think a lot of the carrot stick that's held in front of a lot of exercise science students, PTs, coaches, one is pro sport, play at the coach of the elite sector. Number 2 is owning a gym, right? In all those years that you've been co-owning and being a part of that, when you reflect back, what's been the hardest lesson to learn? What's been one of the hardest lessons you've learned owning and running Pulsate?
Oh, time management.
For you or staff or everything?
No. My staff are unbelievable. No, they're great. It's for me, definitely for me. And it's probably you don't realize it until you're burnt. but it takes, and again, that comes with the passion of things. Like my first year was fantastic, had a lot of drive and kept going, and then moved into my second year. We bought another, well, didn't buy, but we signed a lease for another building, which was another whole overhead of building, managing my current business and then my clients on top of that, which adds another thing. And then all of a sudden, and I was still playing footy at the time, so all of a sudden I'm not doing a lot of rest time, and then a lot of time the phone's going off continuously. You just can't, naturally your drive to be the best and continue to build a business, the hunger forces you to keep going. Now that was probably a big problem for me, because it wasn't until I got to the stage where, I was just tired all the time. Right. I get home, I'd be, as soon as my head hit the pillow, I'm out. But then it would be back and I'd be working again. And it wasn't until now, and I guess it does take time to develop systems. But there was a stage where I'm doing PT from 5 a.m. till 10, going home for a couple of hours, coming back, training myself, and then doing it from 4 to 8. And then on the top of that, I'm trying to run a business, so I'm managing people in the meantime. I'm cleaning. We haven't got money to pay for cleaners and to do the electrical work, and all these things. So I'm doing that. And then it was, it gets to a stage where it's not practical. So it's, I realized that, and I thought, okay, we've got to start to develop better systems where, I can develop a business where, and then this is our mantra now, that if myself and Josh were to go away for a month, say, I know the business could run smoothly without me even picking up my phone to an extent, and that's what I think we've done. And it's a matter of, setting right times. So I don't work 3 mornings out of 7 days now, or Sunday I have off, but, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday I have the morning off, which gives me time to sleep, which gives me my drive for the afternoon. I've got skilled staff now that I've taken the time to skill. We've skilled together, but that means that the expectation that I set and the standard that I set within my classes, or our classes when we're here, that we're all on the same page. So again, when people come in, we're teaching their pulsate methods. You don't come in, and yes, you might have a different coach who has a slightly different approach to things, which we love as well. We want people to still have their own sort of style as such, but the end goal is always the same, and the protocols that we use are very, very similar. And that's the same. With the staff that I've got now, we upskill once a week. We have meetings. So one of the big things for myself was, and it's hard within this industry, is that a lot of PTs are subcontractors, right? And you get to big chain gyms and stuff, and they come in, they pay their rent, they do their hours, and they go home. And there's some sort of communication in between. They might be friends with a couple of people there, where we're not about that, and we're very much community based, and that's how we try to maintain our staff too. And we say it's not, yes, they come in and they do their own PTs or whatever, but we all work together. We're a team. It's not somewhere where someone comes on, does their PT and goes home. We hang out together. We do social events together. Like I said, we skill together. We train together. So all these different little elements, that means that instead of, these guys coming and going, filling in for a class here and there when I need time, we're sharing the load right across the board. And Joss and myself, we oversee that. And obviously we run a really big part of that. But the other 10, 12 staff that we've got here, they drive it for us.
You said systems, and I want to talk about the culture you have as well, but what are the systems that you guys have put in place, the systems and habits that you've established that allows you the confidence to, if you wanted to disappear for a month, you can?
Okay, so and this is a big thing for us in COVID. We came up with, this is sort of when the skilling started. So I decided, I was like, look, I know it's a hard time because the coaches that we have are not going to be working like they were. And I wanted to provide them with at least an opportunity to keep some sort of normality and again, keep the passion, keep the drive for when they come back to work, and which is a really hard thing. So we developed five key philosophies that we will always refer to, and it was community, teamwork, commitment, integrity, and passion. And we came up with them as a group. So I said to the staff, I said, I want you to think about what Pulsate means to you, and for our members, what it is. I want you to say, give me 3 words, and then from the 3 words that everyone gave us, we kind of mix and match and pigeon them into those 5 philosophies, and then we use them as a reference. So, like I said, for us, I mean, it's probably the biggest thing for Pulsate, and if you ask any member that comes in the door here, the community is the biggest thing, and that's our driver. So when people walk in the door, that they feel at home. You know, they get welcomed. Someone doesn't come in, they don't know what's going on. Every trainer knows every client's name. You know, so you come in, you go into a class, they know the client. We keep spreadsheets of our clients, their injury histories, where they're at in their progressions, their goals, and we communicate with them. Now, and that's one thing. So, and then we break it up into groups. So with our group training, basically, I should have probably mentioned this earlier, but our group training is obviously strength and conditioning is one component. We do HIIT classes, what's called Strength Fit, which we've kind of developed as a bit of a hybrid of like a sort of lighter version of a CrossFit style group training. We do boxing, and then we've now introduced Pilates. And what we do is we have a head of each of those sections, and we basically have guidelines as to how each of those classes should be structured. And that's from start to finish. So like I said, it's not just when you go in a HIIT class, these are your work-rest ratios. These are what we're going to focus on in terms of your timing. And this is, you know, whatever. It's you meet and greet people at the door. We've got a booking system. You know who's coming in before. You know if someone's got a history of back problems and they're coming in, they're still dealing with that. We're not going to get them doing kettlebell swings, you know, in a group of 20. We're going to look at the risk reward and pick a simple exercise, and we're prepared for that. You know, we go through and the same. The place is set up, the structure's there, it's clean when they leave, and the communication. So again, we know the next day, and between our S&C, this is the biggest. It doesn't happen so much in the other classes. But, you know, we've got a goal. We message 5 members a week, and we've got the list, and we go through and we pick and we say, you know, tell us how your program's going. How's the structure and everything? How are you feeling? And then again, we use Team Builder. I don't know if we've used that before, but again, that tracks all our data. We've got wellness reports that we run through that. We look at everyone's numbers. And again, we just make sure that we maintain that care and compassion for everyone that comes in here.
All right. So it seems like you guys have this. It's not one. It's like the holistic approach to having a multitude of systems that really creates this well-oiled machine that is now functioning, right?
Yeah, well, it is. And then, like I said, it's that one of my biggest things was when I came in, because I'd never came from a rent-based gym, and like I said, I had no history within the industry. Yeah. So when I first started, that was not exactly the mantra, but that was sort of the thing. It was like, all right, cool. A good way to make money is to get as many trainers as we can in here, get them paying $350 rent. That pays for the building. Everything's great. They do their PTs. We get people as members. Fantastic. And as we started to progress, I thought this is not what I want. There's no culture. It's not. There's no brand there. Like what? And I want to work with people. I want to make my job enjoyable. I want my clients to feel welcome, and I want to make sure that again, when people come in here, they're getting better. And I know, I believe I've developed. Well, we've developed as head trainers really good philosophies and systems that we've taken slightly from other coaches. Like your McGills, Mike Boyles, these guys, and we've constructed programs and classes around these guys' philosophies that work. And I thought, well, everyone needs to be doing this. And if this is my business, and Joss and I spoke about this, if this is our business, that the standards got to be the top across the board. So these little things have got to be done. And yes, it's more hours out of my day, but it makes my life a hell of a lot easier when, like I said, I know that if I gave a new client to one of the guys or one of the girls to take them, that they know the lifts I'm giving them, they know the cues that I'll be using, and the output that I'm looking for.
I know you said time management before was like one of the bigger things that you were like struggling with, or that you've made mistakes on. What's the system that you've put in place now that you're really thankful for with time management? Maybe you've already mentioned it, but I don't know.
No, I mean, look, I'm still working on it, to be honest. Yeah. It's not fantastic. There's still a lot of work hours going in, but no, I just make sure that my number one, like I said, I'm in an easier position now to dictate it because I know that I've got people that I can trust.
Yeah.
And can take care of the business while I'm not here. But now I've got that. When at the start of this year I said, okay, I'm going to play one more year of footy. These hours are set for me. I'm going to train. This is my time. The time that I missed, that I used to, say, okay, I'm going to train at some stage today, doing my strength. All of a sudden I get stuck doing emails and phone calls. Then my clients come up. All of a sudden it's 9 o'clock at night. I'm cooked. And I don't do it, I push it to the next day. And then I feel shit. I go, okay, that's not happening. So I set my times. Now that's number one. I'm number one for starters. So I go to an extent. Now I say, okay, these little things that I love doing have got to be in there at some stage, and I lock them in.
Is this a calendar? What do you use?
Yeah, in a calendar. Yeah, I just use very, very basic, mate. I just use the Outlook.
Whatever works.
Yeah. I just use the Outlook. I mean, it's good. It just gives me reminders. It's easy for me to use. I'm the furthest from being tech savvy that you could ever imagine. So basic is better for me. And then, I'll just block out hours. So rather than thinking I have to fit my clients in and it's got to work, I pick hours. So I say, okay, for my coaching window, I've got from 3 till 7, and my classes fit in that too, of an afternoon. Mondays and Fridays, I do the morning. So if my clients want to come in, they go in between my classes. I've got a window of 7 and 8, and that's where I look at it. And then I'm starting to push now for more of my experienced guys into a little bit more of a semi-private model. So, initially I was really big on just one-on-one training, and that's probably something else I've adapted a little bit more in the last, probably from the start of this year, is giving my guys and girls a little bit more of a sense of empowerment and getting them to understand that they don't need me all the time. If I'm doing my job as a coach right, and and they've got that experience, they know it feels right, they've got to be able to go off and do it on their own. So now it frees me up hours, and I fit them into the slot. So if I've got guys on similar programs, I'll chuck them in the same hour, and I can just oversee them as I go, as opposed to just thinking, shit, I've got 40 guys, I've got to fit them in all week, so I'm working fucking 4 till 9 o'clock. Someone messages me and pulls out, so I make the effort to fit them in the next day. That's where the burnout comes. And for me, you notice that you do stuff like that, not only are you burning yourself out, but your coaching quality gets less too. So you come in and you want to give the best to your clients, to your athletes. That's what you're there for, and you can't provide that because your head's not there. Right. You're cooked. Yeah,
man. And it's a lesson that you often have to learn just by pushing the boundaries, right? You have to really get to an extreme level of imbalance to really find what the hell balance even means to you, right?
Yeah. Well, that's it. And like I said, sometimes, unfortunately for me, it took me to get to this stage of burnout to get there. But I think that's the same as everyone. You don't know what your threshold is until you push it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But you know what? I have heard this story time and time again. Like this story of coaches and just professionals in general, any ambitious business-orientated person, is that they worked really hard, pushed the boundaries hard, went too far, found where like you said, the threshold was. But I think it's good because now for all the people out there, I think they can learn from that, because you don't always need to make all the mistakes yourself, right? You can learn from others too.
Yeah, for sure. And as I said, for me, I did everything off. Well, we did everything off our own bat, and we just solely learnt from our mistakes. But that's it. If we had just taken the time, probably to, maybe to look at systems, see how other people worked, and which you did to an extent. But yeah, like you said, it doesn't have to be. You can things can work to an extent all the time too.
When you look back, maybe that's something you regret, I don't know, do you have like regrets within your career? You go back and you're like, man, I wish I did that differently. Business, career, maybe even personal. Like, do you have any of that?
Well, definitely not regrets, because and I'm a big believer on this. You'd never get to where you would if you didn't have those things. And I'll use, again, like my career as an electrician for an example. Like, sometimes I think I'm like, oh shit. Well, when I was doing my degree, actually, now, and I'm slaving trying to still build the building, and I'm here and I'm going, fuck, if only I just had gone to uni when I was 18, I would have been done. Yeah. Imagine how much of a better coach I would have been for all the hours I would have done and where I would have been now. But I think, again, the fundamental of my hard work that I put in, probably a lot of how my people management skills, again, even staff management, I learned from a great business owner that I worked for, that taught me a lot of those skills that I never would have got otherwise. And which probably, like, when we talk about people entering in and out of the system, I think it's a big issue still, is that people actually haven't gone out into the workforce and had any sort of life experience before they get out, and that's where it becomes too hard. That they don't know how to what the go is with financials. They don't know how to deal with clients and these sort of things. It's that they're all important life skills that are got to be learned. So no regrets. Obviously, there's things that you definitely do differently, and even with coaching, you think there's this shit that I would not even dream of doing now that I did when I started.
Like what?
With guys, I guess even the variation of the clam now. Like I think like people with bad backs or things like that, I don't even do it, and it's fixed like that. And I think, wow, what an easy thing. I could have, done that. If that had been there, would have fixed a lot of issues. Trying to think, there's nothing. Look, like the fundamentals around what I've used with glute stuff has always been pretty big from back when my Woodford days. Anyway, so it's not a heap that's changed from that. So yeah, not heaps to do, probably more coaching wise, but business was never experienced in. So like I said, the mistakes you learn from it are actually good for you because they stick in your memory, and they're there. So the real bad ones, even though they're shit at the time, you always get through them. And then when you do, they're always there because if it's whether it's dealing with rent negotiations or different things like that, you go, the next time this comes around, there's no way I'm forgetting that because it's there. That's it. So
do you have any advice like for the personal trainers who run their own business and want to start their own business as well in an actual, brick and mortar? Like they're starting out. What do you tell them that you wish you knew?
What do I tell them? Okay, so my best advice for me was number one. I think a degree is important, and I think for me, so I did mine in sport and exercise science, and I learned a lot. Learned most of I'd say over 50% of what I actually utilize, and my philosophies of coaching have come from internships and workshops that I use. But the foundation of hard work and understanding of research and different things came from my degree. And I think that was really important for me. My tip for my business, for my writing skills, like I said, I hadn't even read a book until I was 24. So for me to develop that stuff, I think it's got a really, really good transference to everything in life. So I'd say if you're keen, it's not just doing just a course. I think a degree is important. I think coaching hours and not like, obviously everyone needs a base of money to work off, but don't revolve your model and how you're going to drive your business around money. Because for me, when I was interning and started working, I was getting people in the door, and I believe I worked really, really hard, and I was charging maybe $20 a session. And sometimes I started off with these guys are my friends, and a lot of the time I was coming in watching coaches for free, and I did this for hours and hours and hours and hours. And then I think a lot of people now expect to come in, they think, oh, well, I'm going to charge someone, whatever, $60, $80, whatever it is, a session, and they struggle to get the load of hours. I think the coaching hours is so important because, again, that's where you're going to make the mistakes, but it's where you're going to build off and actually understand what works, what doesn't, different body types, how to cue things for different people, what to actually take from it. So from a business perspective, I would say understand that you're going to need a really good team. You can't do anything on your own, even no matter how hard you think you can work and what you want. I believe that's what's worked for us, is that, get a team that you can work with, and everything will just happen around you if you get the foundation there in terms of your coaching and your skill. I think a degree is important, to skill yourself as much as you can, and as much education, and just get in your coaching hours. Doesn't matter who it is. Even if you don't like, now I'm in a fortunate enough situation where we've got a pretty big client base, and I've built up a lot of young footballers and athletes that come to see me now that I can afford to pigeonhole myself a little bit more, and it's easier for me to select that. But for my first 5 years, that wasn't the case. And as much as I wanted it to be, you can't pick and choose, because, people come and go a lot in terms of people move, people change jobs, people don't want to spend the money. They get, you get them right and they're fine. So you've got to understand you've just got to keep building up the market, keep getting the coaching hours in, and you become a better coach, and you have the luxury of being able to do that later on down the track.
It's really interesting because I'm starting to see another pattern emerge. Well, number one, that's advice that I give to our Cert 3-4 students in the classes, is that these guys are just starting out, right? Entering the industry. And it's essentially along the lines of what you say. Like, I'm telling them, say yes to everything, pretty much everything, right? Get a diverse amount of experience, like it's a portfolio that you want to diversify of different populations of people. You want to work with everybody, free, $10 an hour, $100 an hour, just like say yes to everything so you can build a wide skill set, number one, and then you can figure out actually later on the line who resonates with you. What do you actually want to do precisely? What types of populations and people resonate with you? And it's the same thing that my guest on yesterday's podcast said as well. And yeah, I'm starting to see that pattern.
Yeah, well, and to be honest, you discover things that you might not have thought you liked. Yeah. For me, like I said, I came to Pulsate when the boys started with a pure athlete background. Was training my philosophies to my athletes in the gym. The boys said, look, would you be interested in doing some strength classes and trying this out? And at that stage, our demographic was 40-year-old mums. That was, between that bracket of, 30 to 50, whatever.
So your ego could have said, no, I only work with athletes. That's the pedestal that you want to work with, right? But you didn't. Why?
Yeah. Because I thought, I'll give an opportunity. It could be a cool thing to, the same, I like getting people better. I like getting the most out of people. Like I said, whether it's performance for sport or just everyday function, that's, I get a kick out of it. So, I trialed it, and then it take me a long time to fine tune things and get a really good system going with what we actually offer for our classes. But, I was loving it because they were loving it. And that was the thing, I'm getting girls that would come up to me and saying, fuck, I've had back pain for the last 10 years. You know, my last trainers have told me, you can't, don't lunge because, you know, if your knees hurt, it's bad for your knees. Then all of a sudden, I'm actually getting them to understand that they can do these things, you know, and fixing it. And then, that's it. And then they're coming to me going, this is, you know, they think I'm a magician. I'm going, realistically, this is like, it's not pretty that, it's pretty basic, but it was awesome. And, you know, and that was it. I still love it to this day. That's what we've built the base of our membership base. Like we got of 100, I think we're close to about 190 members now. I think we've got about nearly 90 that are on the S&C membership. And I've got close relationships with all of them. And it's, you know, like you said, if I had said no, I had to pigeonhole myself into just doing that. You know, I never would have experienced that. And then at the same time, there's shitloads that I've learned from training these guys too that I use for my athletes. You know, and everything bounces off. You're always going to take one thing from one person and be able to use it, or at least understand why one thing works for someone and why it doesn't work for someone else. You know, it's,
And then you then you can develop systems. Then you can develop, like, you know, that's how your coaching gets more effective, because then you start to notice patterns. But to finish and like round out this conversation, I think I'm going to start asking this question, like, to finish our conversations, because we're Orphic, like, we deliver Cert 3s and 4. Well, we deliver the practical classes right now, and we have a lot of students that we teach. And I wonder if you, Cory, had the platform to speak to all the PTs who are graduating and the exercise science students as well, coaches who are entering the industry. You got 5 minutes, a couple minutes. What do you tell them? What's your lesson, your message to them?
As my message to them, they want to go out. Make sure that you love what you're doing, because you're going to be doing it every day for the rest of your life. You know, and if you don't love what you're doing, then you're in the wrong industry, and you need to pick that up and change quick. You know, because like I said, I did it for 5 years. It took me 5 years to get out of it. I don't regret it, but I went from someone that was dying to get home from work. Every day I'd wake up, would almost be like I would feel better to be sick because I could not be getting out of bed, and I'd rather stay at home, to now I don't work a day in my life. Now, and yes, there's times when, like I said, there's shit things that you have to deal with as being a business owner and being a boss and stuff that you got to deal with, but I'll go home and program at 8 o'clock at night, and I love it, because I know that my guys and girls that I train are going to become better from it, and that's my passion. And I feel if you don't have that, you're in the wrong industry, and your life's just going to be hard. It's going to be hard because you're not doing something that you love. You don't want to. Life's too short to work, essentially. You know, don't work to live. Find something that you really, really love, that you really have a passion in, and then it just becomes second nature to you. Every second thing that I read is got to do with strength and conditioning, you know, or athlete development, or everything that I do revolves around really training, you know, or some form of physical activity. So that's it. If you'll know if it's not for you or if it is, and if you don't have that drive, if the 3 hours aren't there, and you're like, you know, I can't bother. I'd rather go and work at Safeway while I'm studying, because it's really hard for me and I want to make money. You know, then it's not the industry for you. Go and if you're the person that's coming in doing 3 hours, you're hanging around, you're sending me messages going, hey coach, really interested in how why did you teach a sumo to that person and a conventional deadlift to this person? You're the right person for the industry. You know, stick with it.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate, because I know the thoughts that people are gonna have. For some people that's gonna resonate deeply. There's some people some people just like, they're gonna think, well, it's not practical for me to do what I love right now, or do what I love a lot, because what I love doesn't pay my bills. it doesn't financially support me right now. What do you say to those people who are like, get stuck in that mentality of the realistic nature of life?
If you're passionate enough, you make it work. You'll make it work. You'll find a way. And whether that's, I mean, the government's fantastic now in providing subsidies for people at university, different things. Like I said, I was out of home when I first started. When I first started at Woody's, I started the internship. I was studying. My only form of income was I was working at a door store for twice a week on a casual rate. It was like $25 or whatever. I had no money to go out on the weekend, but I didn't care because I was doing what I loved, and I knew it wasn't forever. That was the thing for me, It's it's just short term, and if you knuckle down and you get smart enough, quick enough, you get educated quick enough, you're going to be able to start coaching. All of a sudden, the people come in. These free sessions that you're doing aren't free anymore because you're getting more people coming through your door, more people wanting you to coach them. All of a sudden, your $20 becomes $40. Then you got two people that you're coaching at the same time becomes 80. Then all of a sudden, the door store, you don't have to do anymore because you get enough coaching hours, still educating, and then the shit things that you don't like doing start dropping off, and everything else starts coming through.
That's it, man. It's not often like a light switch. It's often just a gradual build and transition, especially if you can't go all in. You got to work at a door store or any retail, whatever, and you got to make ends meet. But like you said, and I think you're a testament to that, you turned up. You were consistent. You put in more hours, the free hours that you weren't getting paid for. That showed people around you, the environment that you're in, that you were worth something, that you were worth investing in, and then you started getting paid. And you started getting your worth, and slowly, week, month, build smarter, more effective, and now I think it just compounds.
That's it. And I always say, I feel like, I feel every day I go, I'm the luckiest person in the world because I can do it. But I also know I've worked very hard to get here, but at the same time, I got the best job in the world.
But you earned that position, man. You earned that position eating shit at door stores and electrician work you didn't want to do.
Oh, dude. Yeah. That's it. And that's probably not everyone has to do that. Some people might fortunately, get put into better positions, but that's my message for the people that think it's impossible, that think it's too hard, I've got to get a base. It's rubbish. You find a way. And I don't have a house. I don't have a lot of possessions, but I don't care because I got this. I got two buildings, and I got 12 staff members I absolutely love. 190 members that I do almost anything for, and then that's you find a way to make that happen if you really want to.
So it sounds like you're not chasing, because I think that's the modern Australian American Western dream: own a house, have a family, But it sounds like what's more important to you is how you feel inside, the culture and community you have, and the business and the services you're providing.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And like I said, I'm happy every day. I love it.
That's awesome, man. Cory, thank you for your time, man. It's great to talk properly like this.
Yeah, I know. Good to see you. Next time we're running past each other, we'll stop. we'll go the same direction.
Absolutely, man.
Cool.
Any last comments, thoughts, or just where people can find you?
No, thanks, dude. So I guess for those that don't know, the facility Pulsate Center, where everyone will know Oasis Bakery. If you don't live in Melbourne. So we're in the same block as Oasis, down the back. Like I said, I've pretty much explained our group training myself. We'll get as many athletes, as many people in the building as we can. And like I said, you won't find a more of a community place. We promise we'll look after you. And I hope I've expressed my passions enough to encourage people to feel welcome when they come down here. But that's it. That's it. I hope you've enjoyed the listen. It's been good being here.
Thank you, Cory. It's great to talk to you, man. And if you ever need anything personally or like through Orphic, let us know. Let me know, man.
Thank you, brother. I look forward to we'll be in touch. It's
Absolutely.
Good.
See you, brother.
Thanks for your time. See you, bro.
Cory Hargrave, ladies and gentlemen. Cory Hargrave. So that we go back a little bit because Cory was originally at Woodford's as a coach about 4 or 5-ish years ago, whatever it was, when I was doing my internship and then when I became a coach. And so watch the people who have been in the industry for 5+ years, right? Watch them. Why are they here? What characteristics do they display? Because it's funny, I talked to Lewis, Mazza, and George yesterday, but I know Lewis from the internship as well. And your paths cross again, and we have to wonder why. Why are we still here? Why are those guys still here in this industry, being effective, successful, owning businesses, making a living? And you hear Cory, man, he's genuinely doing the thing that fulfills him and gives him meaning. Like, if that ain't making it, I don't know what is. And so, Pulsate, check it out, guys. Orphic Education. You know what it is. We deliver or provide practical classes for Cert 3 and 4. Go to orphiceducation.com. If you guys want to learn more, if you are interested in becoming a PT or coach, then check us out. We might resonate with you. If you're liking our podcasts, then you might like and resonate with, some of our values and what we have to offer. All these podcasts, every week we'll release them on all podcast platforms, YouTube and Facebook. I'm Alexander Emmanuel Sandalis. You can find me on the internet, just searching that, or my coaching and training journey at Strength of Sard. Otherwise, see you guys next time. Stay well, stay strong, keep moving.